calling in from West Palm Beach, Florida on our Republican line. Good morning, Dennis.
Good morning, and good morning, Mr. Hewitt. I'm a big fan of yours.
Thank you, Dennis.
You mentioned your book and those 5 points that you think the GOP has to have for success, et cetera. And with all due respect, I think you missed the most important one, which is parental rights and the education of their children. I know Betsy DeVos is up for Secretary of Education, and she's pro-choice, et cetera. But over the years, I've read many Republicans talk about what they believe school choice to be, and it's things like within the public school system, like more charters, et cetera. If you don't have a religious option for school choice, you have no school choice. Public schools right now are atheistic, secular, humanistic, whatever term you want to have. And someone like me, I'm a Catholic, just like you said you were, it offends me to have to pay for those schools that run down my religion, and I don't have the free exercise clause. I mean, this thing is an absolute disgrace, but this should be the preeminent issue for the Republican Party. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dennis. And I'm on the board of Great Hearts Schools in Arizona, public charter, and I believe in charter schools, both public and private. And I love the fact that Doug Ducey, the governor of Arizona, doubled the tax credit for people giving directly, for example, to Catholic private schools. I don't talk about school choice much in the fourth way because it's not a federal issue. Education is a state issue and a local issue, and it ought to be that way. And I believe very much in what you do in allowing people to support their local Catholic school through things like the Arizona direct tax credit and through things like private charter, private vouchers in other places which have been upheld by the Supreme Court. Where this comes into play is in the chapter on judges and judicial selection. There are 103 vacancies in addition to the Supreme Court vacancy right now. If originalists go in and the free exercise clause is appropriately understood and interpreted by the court, I believe you will find that the Trump judges will be upholding every voucher passed at the state and local level as consistent with both the free exercise clause and the establishment clause. So, Dennis, let not your heart be troubled. Help is on the way, but school reform comes at the local level, not from the federal level.
And since you're mentioning the Supreme Court, the president will make his announcement next week. You've seen the list of people that he has drawn up with the help of some conservative groups. What do you think of them? They're not all the same, either in terms of their background or sometimes their ideology.
In fact, I included in an appendix the 21 judges he put out on his list. And I asked President Trump when he was a candidate, if you nominate someone not on this list, is Mitch McConnell justified in bottling it up? And he said, absolutely, I'm going to stick with the list. So I reviewed them all. They're all originalists. Now, some of them are young. Judge Strauss on the Minnesota Supreme Court is 42. Some are old. A Michigan Supreme Court justice is 66. They're different colors. They're different genders. The 2 finalists, allegedly, are Judge Gorsuch of the 10th Circuit, Judge Hardiman of the 3rd. They're both fine jurors, both amazing, and I don't know them. I just read their opinions. I like Judge Kelly of the Military Court of Appeals, Notre Dame grad, and a commandant aide in the Marine Corps, just an extraordinary choice. And I mean Judge Ryan, what did I say? Kelly is our new Homeland Secretary, Irish Notre Dame. I'm getting confused. And, of course, Justice Willett, the tweeting justice in Texas, is a friend. I'd love it if he were nominated. Judge Pryor of the 11th Circuit, very traditionalist Catholic, very extraordinarily gifted jurist. They're all good, Kimberly. I just want one to get up there. I know that they will be filibustered. We will invoke the Reid rule, as Senator Reid. Thank you, Senator Reid, if you're watching. Thanks to all the Democrats out there. Majority vote for all of our nominees. Majority vote for all the judges and justices. And they will be confirmed.
All right, Robert's calling in from Smyrna, Georgia, on our Democratic line. Hi, Robert.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. You seemed quite pleased with yourself that you sought out the experts in the military, the very military officers that told you, what a surprise, this is what we need to do to get our military in order. Perhaps you're familiar with the chicken commercial for the Cathy family that owns Chick-fil-A. It says, eat more chicken. What did you expect the general to say? There's an awful lot of military that we've got out here. In fact, if you take the next 12 militaries on the face of the earth, spend less in total than we do on our military. And what do we do with it? We use it everywhere we decide to use it. We're in a constant state of war. Why don't you talk to some people who have less involvement in the military, who want to spend less on the military and more on the people? Thank you.
Robert, it's a great question. It's a good comment. And I do presume, I assume that we need a Navy. And the oceans haven't gotten smaller from when President Reagan almost had a 600-ship Navy at the height of the Cold War. We don't need a 600-ship Navy. But experts in the military and outside of it, the Quadrennial Review Commission at the Pentagon, people like Senator Jim Talent, extraordinarily gifted person, lots of civilians take a look at the oceans in particular, and they understand that free commerce and freedom of navigation require at least a 350-ship Navy. We've got about 272 to 282, depending how you count right now. So especially if you're a peace-loving person, especially if you want freedom of the seas, especially if you don't ever want to have to go to war, you need to keep the American Navy afloat, manned with its Marines, manned with its aircraft, the F-18s and the F-35s updated. If you want peace, you prepare for war. And peace through strength was the Reagan policy. It's Donald Trump's policy. It works. If you want to avoid conflict, have the biggest military by far, but especially a Navy equipped to the size of the oceans.
All right, Eddie is calling on our independent line from Marlborough, Massachusetts. Good morning, Eddie.
Good morning, folks. How are you? How are you?
Hey,
Big
Eddie.
fan of yours. I almost hung up because you kind of stole almost all my thunder. It is about the Supreme Court. And about a year ago, I called into the Journal, and Steve Scully was on, and he asked a question, what do you think the most important issue is going to be to face the next president? I think it was after Scalia died, but before, you know, the primaries were over. And I thought unequivocally, I thought that I didn't have to think at all. I thought it was the Supreme Court. So I don't want to filibuster myself. So I guess my question to you is, what do you see as the best case and worst case scenario? And maybe if you could give an order of that you think judges might step down. I think obviously the key one for conservatives would be Kennedy. I kind of was under the impression that he might have been hanging on these past 8 years to the job, hoping, you know, that a Republican, or Trump isn't a conservative, but a Republican did get in, so, you know, we would have his pick. Obviously, he's the closest to the one that straddles the fence. So if you could just answer maybe those two questions. And I look forward to picking up your book. I haven't read it yet, but big fan of yours. And
thank you, Eddie.
Keep up the good work for the conservative cause.
Well, you zoomed in on it. I still hope you get the book, but in the fourth way, I talk about what I expect will be Justice Kennedy's resignation this June. And the reason I believe that is because he has quite a legacy on federalism. Justice Kennedy's jurisprudence is deep and wide and wonderful on federalism. He also has a judicial legacy on same-sex marriage, which I do not believe will be disturbed by a 5-member originalist Supreme Court for reasons outlined by Chief Justice Roberts. And I discussed this in the fourth way. I had a battle royale with my editor, Priscilla. She's a wonderful editor, best one I've ever had. But she thought I was being a little too legal because the Chief Justice wrote a concurring opinion in the Citizens United case, which explains when stare decisis, the judicial doctrine of what you keep and what you don't keep and when you overturn. He wrote an opinion that explains why, in my view interpreting it, Obergefell will not be overturned by an originalist Supreme Court, but Roe v. Wade would be. So I think the best case scenario is, and I don't expect any of the court's liberals to retire, and Judge Ruth Bader Ginsburg was very nice to me when I was a young clerk on the D.C. Circuit and my judge got sick, so I wish her only the best. But I do wish Justice Kennedy would retire this June and that we have a 5-member originalist court. I don't expect any other retirements from the left wing of the court.
And what makes you think that he will? I mean, it's one thing to say that you hope that he does. A lot of liberal folks wanted Ruth Bader Ginsburg to retire before President Obama left office. Have you gotten any signs that Justice Kennedy is mulling retirement?
No signs. And there are all these rumors about clerks. It's all nonsense. It's only in his head, and all of that's false flags. My only belief is that the Ruth Bader Ginsburg example, Justice Ginsburg did not retire, and she was expecting Secretary Clinton to win, and would have retired and would have had a replacement. If you want your legacy to stay intact, as Justice Kennedy likes his federalism legacy, you don't roll the dice on either losing control of the Senate, even though the numbers are very pro-Republican in 2018. 25 Democrats are up, 8 Republicans. People like John Tester are going to lose. People like Bob Casey are going to lose. Sherrod Brown in Ohio is going to lose probably to Josh Mandel, the secretary. So we'll get more, but we won't get 60. And I fully expect that Justice Kennedy is aware of actuarial tables and the desire to make sure that his